you say it's your birthday. It's my birthday too.
Don't do that, okay?
We have episode 25, top 5 1-word bands. And happy birthday, Gregg.
Welcome to episode number 25 of the Only Three Lads podcast, where we take a look at the golden age of alternative music from 1974 to 1999. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Uncle Gregg. We have the PhD of music, Brett Vargo, and we have Ambassador Bueno.
What's up, guys?
Happy birthday, boy.
Yeah,
Hey.
birthday week for Bueno this week.
Oh, no way. Seriously,
way.
guys?
Uh-huh.
We're going to make this one special for you
Oh, okay.
because you are a special kind of guy.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Just hanging out, hovering around the world from tree to tree in our O3L spaceship with my two lads and gorilla, enjoying episode 25. And we are spreading the word of love and happiness. And of course, Be Bueno's birthday episode.
I smell a hit.
Yeah.
What's the order this week?
Birthday boy goes first.
Birthday boy is going first this week, kicking off our list of top 5 one-word named bands. This was kind of a hard one this week because there was also putting, 1 through 5 on my list was kind of tough, and then just picking the bands because there's so many great bands with just one word in their name.
I mean, let's face it, guys. This week is just dumb. It's just, hey, you have one name? Yeah, you qualify. I'll tell you guys one thing that I did that I tried to avoid. There's certain one-word bands that I know are intended to be one word, like Ramones, Buzzcocks, Pixies, things like that. But people always call them the Ramones, the Buzzcocks. So I'm like, nah, I'm not going to include those. The other thing that I tried to avoid doing, when I think of one-word bands, I think a lot about the 90s, right? I mean, you had a lot of those types of bands in the 90s. And in particular, in my world, being very Britpop centric, there was a lot of Britpop bands that had one name. Yep. And I could have filled my whole list, but I didn't want it to be a best of 90s Britpop list. So I diversified. There's really only one band on my list that came to prominence in the 90s. So there you go.
I wonder who that is.
I know, it's weird. Well, I think this is going to be our most predictable week, right? Because I have a feeling I know what yours is going to be, Bueno.
No, you don't.
I have a feeling I know what Gregg's is going to be, too.
Well, I know what Greg's is going to be in yours, but I don't think you guys know what mine is.
How could it be anything else?
It might not be.
Spice Girls, all one word.
Oh, yeah. All together.
Right? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All together. Two become one.
Well, let's stop the suspense and let's get into our list. Bueno, kick it off with your number 5.
All right, so my number 5 is definitely one of the smartest and most original pop bands of their era, whether in their nerdy new wave incarnation or when they traded up to the lush pop. 13 records, 39 singles released during the O3L era. You know I'm talking about XTC. Andy and Company takes us through a range of incredible music, starting with White Music in 1978. And I remember walking into Licorice Pizza and Reseda, my buddy Jim is like, you gotta check out this new band. And I remember he called it Ecstasy. And I look at it and I said, it's XTC. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. So, and that Peter hooked me, no pun intended. So we can go over all the incredible albums, but I'm only going to go over my top 5 with XTC. So let's start off with Drums and Wires. Released August 17th, 1979. Oh my, 41 years ago. And produced by O3L's favorite producer. Of course, we know who that is, guys.
Steve Lillywhite.
Thank you, Master Brett. Yes, he is back again in 2004. It was ranked number 38 of Pitchfork's list of the top albums of 1970s.
We only want what's best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel.
Plans for Nigel was the only single, but my favorite off that album is actually Helicopter. Their next album, released September 12th, 1980, Black Sea is the next record I need to spill my blood on. Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite all-time pieces of work. Track 1 through 11, incredible. I mean, there was 4 singles, Generals and Majors, Towers of London, Sergeant Rock, Respectable Street, and actually my favorite is Burning with Optimism Flames. I could talk about this extended length CD, which has seven bonus tracks, which is also mind-blowing. but I'm not. And let's go right to English Settlement, which is another masterpiece. This was also released as a single or a double record, depending on where you live. Senses Working Overtime, Ball and Chain, and No Thugs in Our House was the 3 singles. My favorite, No Thugs in Our House. And that record there, guys, that is just an incredible piece of work, too. And, oh my gosh, we'll talk about Oranges and Lemons, released February 27th of 89. And this is one of those records that when I first listened to it, and I said, really? I need to play this again. And it was that good, and I loved it more the second time. From King for a Day, The Loving, which is actually a sing-along anthem that was, according to Partridge, a rewrite of the Beatles' All You Need Is Love, and of course, the genius of Mayor of Simpleton. And the final one I want to talk about is No Such, released on the 27th of 1992, another Partridge masterpiece. He actually wrote 13 of the 17 tracks, including the Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead and The Disappointed as singles. And that LP charted at number 28, number 97 in the US Billboard. And that is my number 5, XTC.
Whew. So is XTC a word?
It's a word here on the Only Three Lads podcast.
I have a question for you, birthday boy.
Yes, sir.
Where in that top 5 list is Skylarking?
Well, it's in there, but I just passed through it. I love Skylarking too, but I just didn't want to take up the whole show.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the song Dear God, I remember when that first came out, and then all the alternative people, when I worked on alternative music, would always talk about how people would call and threaten everyone's life if they played that song again, because it was blasphemy.
Utter blasphemy.
Yeah. But what a great song.
The first copy I had of Skylarking was a tape bought at Kobe Swap Meet, and it was one of the earliest editions, and it did not have Dear God on it.
It scared people. It did.
It's a pretty subversive thought, really.
Well, I just think even if you just hear the child, I think that's what set people off. You know, the first lyrics of that child singing Dear God, and then at the end coming back and then finishing, rounding it out. Oh, what a great song.
It's chilling. All right, so my number 5 pick goes out to my brothers Brian and Shane, who are completists of this particular band, and that is the British band Wire.
Think of a number divided by 2. Something is not found. Nothing is not found. Open up.
Wire is currently going strong and enjoying their 3rd lease on life, but my choice hinges on the 3 landmark 5-star albums that they released in succession from 1977 to 1979, Pink Flag, Chairs Missing, and 154.
That's my favorite.
These 3 albums represent some of the most unique, diverse, and groundbreakingly artistic music of the era. With their 1977 debut, Pink Flag, they brought a minimalistic, angular approach to punk rock, cramming in a whopping 21 songs, fragments, and sketches into 35 exhilarating minutes. By comparison, the 15 songs and 42-plus minutes of the follow-up, 1978's Chairs Missing, is positively expansive, slowing the tempos, allowing the songs to smolder, simmer, and build, and ramping up the keyboard and guitar experimentation.
I am the fly, I am the fly, I am the fly, I am the fly, fly the ointment. I am the fly, I am the fly, I am the fly, I am.
It's an important piece of the post-punk sonic puzzle, predating both the first PIL album and Unknown Pleasures, and also gave the band their first almost hit, the melodic gem Outdoor Miner. Their third, 154, which was named because that's how many gigs they had played at the time of release, expands their sound even further, delving deeper into avant pop and progressive sounds.
With you, it seems as if someone was watching over it before it was.
Between these 3 albums, they contain some of the most influential, copied, and revered songs in alternative music. 12XU, 3 Girl Rumba, I Am the Fly, The 15th, Heartbeat, etc., etc. If you don't have these records, get them now! Well, wait till after the show. In 1981, Wire took a hiatus to return in 1986 to release 6 more records of varying quality during the O3L era. Sure, they weren't up to the standards of the first 3, but then again, what are? They still have some classics peppered throughout them, such as the modern rock hits Kidney Bingos and Eardrum Buzz. But for a band who is as live and electric as the band name suggests, Wire is my number 5 choice for one-word bands.
Awesome. Incredible record. Incredible band.
Great record.
I love 154, man. I could listen to that forever.
Yeah, they were on their own plane in the punk era.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Uncle Greg, what you got?
Well, kicking off my top 5 list of one-word named bands is an English one. The band came at the tail end of the golden age of alternative music in 1999 on Madonna's Maverick Records here in the U.S. Muse's album Showbiz was recorded in 1 month and laid the foundation for the band for years to come. I love Muse. You know, there's not many bands that could combine a tango rhythm with alternative rock and make it sound so awesome like they did with that song Uno.
That you blew this away, 'cause you could have been number 1.
They also had Sunburn on that album.
She burns like the sun. I can't look away.
A lot of great music from this band, of course. One of their gems, Uprising, that came out, of course, out of our little era, but this band really laid the foundation during the golden age of alternative music and has really, anytime I'm bored or anytime I want to hear something different or original, that's when I go to Muse. That's why, you know, the word Muse, some people think it's to be absorbed in thought without thought. What I think is, what a great band.
You could be my unintended choice to live my
So that's my number 5 this week on our list, Muse. I bet you that was a curveball for you guys.
Are we recording?
We should be.
I just looked at it. I don't see anything moving.
It's moving on my end.
Moving on my end, too.
Oh, wait a
Okay.
second. You're talking about the recording. No.
Ah.
Hey, cha-ching, look at that.
Zinger!
That's what she said. Yeah. No, it's actually counting. I'm taking it down to the
Yes.
gutter. Uncle Greg.
Already.
All right. It
We're
was
not
early.
that far into it, too.
I know. All right, Bueno, you're number 4.
All right, well, here's my number 4.
Hi, it's me, Pee Wee Herman. Hey, which one of you's Jack and which one's the gorilla? All right.
My number 4
It's Pee Wee Herman.
was formed in 1973 in Akron, Ohio, collective at the forefront of new wave and style-rooted and brainy robotic synth pop. Hello. It's Devo, robot prostitutes, not here again. Oh, God, here's the gorilla again. We got to get him out of the room. So,
They tell us that we lost our tails. Eat all the up from Little Hills. I say it's all just wind and sail. Are we not bad? We are Devo.
8 records, 22 singles released during the O3L era from the groundbreaking first record produced by Bowie and Eno. Wow. Are we not, man? We are Devo. 34 minutes of the most fun you'll ever have listening to a record, everybody. Uncontrollable urge. I can't get no satisfaction. That first single off that record. I mean, incredible music. Jocko Homo. Come Back Johnny. That first album. That's a masterpiece. Come on, guys. Duty Now for the Future, second release, July 1979. This record was so under commercialized that there are so many songs that should have been released as singles. Swelling Itching Brain, Pink Pussycat, Red Eye, Blockhead. They put out The Day My Baby Gave Me a Surprise and Secret Agent Man, which is a great song, don't get me wrong. Third record, Freedom of Choice, May of 1980. Of course, we know Whip It, their biggest hit. Girl You Want, also on that record. Whip It, of course, the second single. Third single, Gates of Steel. Freedom of Choice was the fourth single. Actually, my favorite, Planet Earth, and Mr. B's Ballroom. I also love that one. So.
Twist away the gates of steel. Unlock the secret voice.
Their fourth record, New Traditionalists, also came out in 81 of August. This album was recorded between December of 1980 and April of 81 at the Power Station in Manhattan, New York, which is kind of strange because I bet you they were like right there where John got murdered. I mean,
Yeah.
right there. I don't know what day that was, but it probably was there. But that was released. Love that record. There was actually Beautiful World was on that. Through Being Cool and Jerking Back and Forth, the 3 singles. Oh No, It's Devo was the 4th, released October 1st, 1982, Peekaboo, and That's Good. Singles off the record. Actually owned that original yellow jumpsuit that you had to mail in to order. And I remember I had to cut up that inner sleeve to order, and I also had that Devo red pot hat and the glasses, and I used to go to backyard parties when my buddy Russ Baldoff with his band would be playing, and people would look at me and just shake their head and go,
I
"What the hell is
wonder
that guy?"
why.
World. It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful world. How are you?
Why is that guy wearing a yellow jumpsuit with that pot head and these weird ass glasses and poking around like a maniac? And that's my number 4, guys. Top 5 one-word bands. Devo.
Now, I know we've talked about the jumpsuit before, but do you still have it?
No, I wish. I used to wear it a lot. Yeah, it wore itself out.
And of course, pioneers of MTV, because they were they were in art school. And so then when their videos, they found out that, hey, MTV's looking for bands that have these videos. So they sent it in, and there you go.
No.
What a great band.
Okay, so I swear I didn't do this intentionally. My number 4 choice happens to rhyme with my number 5 choice. So I had Wire. Now I have... Do we have any guesses?
Billy Squier.
Close.
Bread on
it's not
Fire?
It's not Billy Squier. It is just plain Squire. Squire was one of the best, yet underappreciated bands of the late 70s British mod revival that followed in the wake of the Jam's rise to prominence. While the Jam seemed most smitten with the R&B pop art of the Who's mid-60s records, Squire mixed the DIY spirit of the punk era with singer-songwriter Anthony Maynell's Beatle-esque pop smart. Their earliest recordings captured on albums like Hits from 3,000 Years Ago, Something Old, Something New, Something Borrowed, and Get Ready to Go reflect a certain 60s Mersey beat innocence to their sounds, with songs like B.A.B.Y. Baby Love and I Wanna Be Your Boyfriend. And as an aside, has there ever been a bad song called I Wanna Be Your Boyfriend? You can include this one with the like-titled classics by Ramones and the Rubinoos. It's all cut with an ultra-mod sensibility, sharp mohair suits, scooters, and songs about youth and swinging London. For goodness sake, they have a song called It's a Mod World. Alright, that's pretty blatant. The band continued to bring the grooviness of 60s pop into the early 80s with additional singles, a full-length album in 1983's Get Smart, and a 1984 mini-album built around their cover of Big Star's September Girls, all of which made Squire well-respected by power pop fans. Recommended tracks include My Mind Goes Round in Circles, Jessamine, Does Stephanie Know, which features the always spectacular backing vocals of Kirsty MacColl, and the psychedelic No Time Tomorrow. But really, pick a track, any track, and if you're a fan of mod music, you won't be disappointed by my number 4, Squire.
Awesome.
That's going to be some homework for me.
I'm not disappointed.
Check it out. You're not disappointed?
No, not at all.
That makes me very pleased.
Cool.
All right, Uncle Greg.
Well, my number 4 is an American band out of Forest Hills, Queens. If you wanted the best, you got the best. The Ramones. This band had sex, drugs, rock and roll, bare-knuckle brawls, bipolar disorder, OCD, liberals, conservatives. In other words, the Ramones were a hot mess with loud, fast, straightforward music that still influences kids starting bands in their garages today.
Beat on the brat, beat on the brat, beat on the brat with a baseball bat. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh.
The Ramones' first 4 albums, they're cited as the blueprint for punk, and they have influenced pop bands, punk bands, thrash metal bands, musicians, and artists across the board with their individual style and sound. They are a classic, iconic band. How could you not love the Ramones?
Sweet little girl, I wanna be a boyfriend. Do you love me better?
Now, Gene Simmons of Kiss, of course, said this. They have one gold record to their name. They've never played arenas, couldn't sell them out. It doesn't mean they weren't great. It means the masses didn't care. And thank God I was never a wasp in a swarm. And I jumped on board with the Ramones early as a teen. I saw them on MTV. I remember seeing them on that 1979 movie, Rock and Roll High School. I was a Ramones fan early on, still am today.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Second verse, same as the first. Jackie run, Judy's run.
I love the Ramones. Number 4 on my list for the one-word name bands this week.
Take away the.
That's awesome. And I'll always go to my Pet Cemetery.
That's a great one, too.
Yep.
I just wish that, they had more commercial success, because I think that you'll see a lot of people cite them as some of their favorite bands. I don't know. You see kids wearing the Ramones t-shirts now, and I'm a little bit off, and I just want to rip it off their chest and say, name 3 of their songs. Well, I'll leave
Name
it on
one.
until, name 3. And if you can't do it, the shirt's mine. All right?
Yep.
And, but what a great, they've just become, I guess their image or who they are has become cooler than their music. But if they would sit down and listen to their music, the structure, what they're saying, and what it meant at the time even, I think that people will have a lot of love and a lot of respect for the Ramones, especially people who know what they're talking about. And so I'm excited to put them on my list. But Ramones, they're going to be around for a long time. I think hundreds of years from now, when the archaeologists dig up this, civilization, I hope they find a Ramones album.
Yeah, it'll probably freak them out, too, when they put it on.
What the hell is this society?
We don't even know what this is. What's this black thing with a hole in the middle?
What are they saying? We can't...
If your idea of a hot day is sweet talking Surrey in the bathtub,
No thanks. I'll pass. Pervert.
you need a serious classic alternative infusion. Only 3 lads.
Thanks for hopping in the O3L DeLorean with us for our top 5 albums of 1985 episode. We've got so many great lists and we'd love to read them all here, but here's a start. Andy Hunter weighed in with his top 5. Number 5, New Order, Low Life. Number 4, Talking Heads, Little Creatures. Number 3, The Waterboys, This Is the Sea. Great choice. Number 2, Love and Rockets, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. And number 1, The Smiths, Meet as Murder. How could none of us have had that one? Keep them coming, and now back to the show.
Our man Bueno is celebrating his 61st birthday this week. Dude, really? 61?
Welcome back to the Only 3 Lads podcast. This week we're counting down our top 5 one-word name bands, and already we've been talking about the Ramones, XTC. We found out a new band called, for me at least, Squire, Wire.
Yeah.
We've got all kinds of stuff going on.
Because we're music archaeologists.
Yeah, we are. We like up digging up.
Gosh.
We're going to have the robots dig something up.
Oh, yeah. Every time you mention prostitutes or robots, man, he shows up every time.
Live large, birthday boy. Live large.
Always.
All right, birthday boy. What's your number 3?
So my number 3 is leaders of the Britain ska revival for their catchy melodies and sing-along choruses, later branching into a British pop and soul. They formed in 1976, and this band has 10 members. We all know Madness. They all jumping, running, and having a great time with their style of ska. They've released 8 studio records in the O3L era, 25 singles. Let's start with their first record, One Step Beyond. Oh my gosh, when I first heard this, I was like, what the heck is this? And it just took me to another level of loving music. I mean, they definitely helped bring ska to the forefront with this record. 3 singles, One Step Beyond, My Girl, and The Prince. My actual favorite is The Night Boat to Cairo. That's an incredible song. Their second record was released on September 26, 1980. Absolutely. That also reached number 2 in the UK album charts. 3 awesome singles released. I mean, Baggy Trousers. I mean, that thing peaked at number 3 and spent over 4 months on their singles chart, Embarrassment and The Return of Los Palmas. That's their third single. In 2010, they re-released it, which had 7 bonus tracks and an additional CD featuring a 1980s concert recorded at Hammersmith Odeon. That's so cool. I need to check this one out. I hadn't seen that one. I can't wait. And then They also came out with their fourth studio album called Keep Moving in February 2nd of 1984, and this features one of my favorites. That Michael Caine song is incredible, and Wings of a Dove is their first single. And then they actually had two songs that they released that was never on any studio records. And the first one is It Must Be Love, and that was on October 25th, 1981. And House of Fun, the same thing, never released on any of studio albums. Also, that was on May 14th of 1982. So Madness is an incredible band, and I know people have heard them, but you've got to listen to all of their records in our O3L era, because that's why they reached up, and they're my number 3 top 5 one-word bands. Madness.
Great. I've been listening to a lot of ska punk lately. A lot.
Yeah.
I just want the happy dance music. I don't know what it is, but a lot of times it's a lot about brother and sisterhood, and it's just fun music you could dance to. And they can get into some pretty heavy subjects, but it's just mostly fun. And that's what I guess I'm looking for, because the gyms have been closed again here in Phoenix for the last month. And soon I'll be going to my laboratory to try and figure out how to steer this rock into the sun if they don't open these gyms quickly. I'm just saying, that's why I'm listening to this music, even at work. Like, I'm a news guy, so I sit there and I hear these horrible stories, and it's like,
you are pure, unadulterated
anger.
evil.
Yes, I know. I'm turning into a villain. That's right, huh?
Well, speaking of madness, it sounds like you're going a wee bit mad yourself.
A little. Well, actually, a lot of bit. You're correct.
Guess what, guys?
What do we got?
My number 3 is All in the Mind, and it is the Nutty Boys from Camden Town themselves. Madness.
Oh my god.
With some crossover.
Crossover at the same
At
number.
the same time.
At the same dang
It's
time.
a mind war.
How the heck did that happen?
My girl's mad at me. I didn't want to see the film tonight. I found it hard to say.
And you know what? I'm going to call it now. Our number 2 is going to cross over as well, Bueno. I'm telling you this. All right. Well, as you mentioned, of course,
wait a minute now.
Yes.
You think our number 2 is going to cross over?
Yes, I do.
Madonna. Oh my
Yes,
God.
I do.
Madonna's she does have a pretty good cast.
Madonna would be fantastic, but it's
Yes.
not.
No.
Well, of course, Madness, as Bueno said, was one of the leading lights of the late 70s ska revival, but has enjoyed a career as one of the most successful and enduring British pop bands of the 80s. Both their band name and their first single, The Prince, released in 1979 on the legendary Two-Tone record label, was in tribute to their idol, Prince Buster. The song became a surprise hit and was quickly followed by their debut album, again, as Bueno mentioned, One Step Beyond, released by Stiff Records in October 79. It's a record that's imbued with their trademark zaniness, but is stuffed with flashes of the pop brilliance that would follow. Along with the Specials' first album and the beats I Just Can't Stop It, to me it forms the holy trinity of the ska revival. As the years went on, the band became more refined, more polished, and leaned more on classic British pop sensibilities than Jamaican music. Their masterpiece to me, actually one you did not mention, Bueno, was 1982's The Rise and Fall, which shows the band, particularly vocalist songwriter Suggs, maturing into a witty, keen social observationalist.
These are the streets I used to walk on summer nights, sit out and talk.
And the album sits very comfortably with similar slices of British life, such as the Kinks' or the Village Green Preservation Society, XTC's Skylarking, and Blur's Modern Life is Rubbish. The album started life as a loose concept record revolving around the various band members' childhood, and that sense of nostalgia comes through in many of the tracks. And crazy enough, this is wild, the album wasn't even released in the US. Dumb Americans. Sorry. Except everybody listening. That's American. All right. Although some of the songs would wind up on a 1983 self-titled compilation, that would, of course, earn Madness their only US top 10 single with the wonderful Our House. After 2 more albums, Madness would call it quits for many years, splintering off into the short-lived The Madness, 2 words, mind you, to differentiate the two, and the Nutty Boys before reuniting for live shows and a welcome return at the end of the O3L era with 1999's Wonderful. Every few years, Madness convenes to record a new album, a couple of which are up to par with their classics, and none of which embarrass their legacy. And what a list of classics it is. You have House of Fun, My Girl, It Must Be Love, Baggy Trousers, One Step Beyond, Wings of a Dove, the list goes on. With 15 top 20 albums and 21 top 20 singles in the UK to their credit, Madness is a pop institution and my number 3 one-word band, and a crossover with the Birthday Boy.
What an intelligent choice.
What an intelligent choice.
You know, the greatest thing about Madness, and this is what impresses me, is that with 10 guys in a band, there's not a whole lot of money to be made the way they have to cut it up. Even though they have all the album sales and this and that, by the time the money filters down to them, there's not much. Yep. Unless they go on tour, and even then, cutting up between 10 guys, so you know they just all love this music, had a great time together, and it's just fun for them because they're definitely, they might have had other side projects, or they might have made some gravy somewhere else, but with the band, you know, taking them there. But really, with the band cutting it up 10 ways, it was about the love of music, not the love of commerce. Yeah, that's what I love about Madness.
Check out their 21st Century albums too, if you haven't, everybody, because they're really amazing. All right, what you talking about, Uncle Greg?
Well, my number 3 is a band that's into colors. The first album is known as the Blue Album. Then they had one known as the Green Album. They even had a Red Album. The band, of course, from LA, Weezer. Now, the band's first 2 albums are argued as the best albums of the 90s. Then in 2001, the Green Album hit the ground running with Hash Pipe and Island in the Sun, but I digress, as that album is out of the golden age of alternative music from 1974 to 1999, so not in the Only Three Lads podcast era. But I could still remember hearing about a new band coming out, produced by Rick Ocasek, or Ocasek, however you want to say it. I think it's Ocasek now. But I couldn't wait to hear it because I had been a fan since the 70s of the Cars, and I knew that if Rick was part of it, it's something that I'd want to hear. And then, of course, I'm working at the Edge, and we get this Sweater song, and it just blows up. You know, that Blue Album was multi-platinum. Pinkerton's Weezer's second album. It took people decades to catch on, but it has achieved cult status. Not only that, but Weezer, they put out music that matters to this day, and they have never morphed into a cover band playing their old glory. That's why I respect this band. Even when Weezer comes out with new stuff and I'm like, not really that into it, I still respect it because of the magic that comes out of River Cuomo's head. I'm a big fan of Weezer, and it's just hard to believe it's been 26 years and they're still going. I love the band Weezer. Number 3 this week of the one-word name band.
There are very few albums that I think have enjoyed such a critical turnaround as Pinkerton, too. Because remember how bashed that album was?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just like savaged by the critics.
Think of the bravery, because they had all that success with the Blue Album, their debut album, and then it kind of went darker and
neurotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't think at first it was like, what is this? The band's over, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, then the Green Album came out 2001, and they went back to their old ways, and there were big hits, and, you know, they had out with that Island in the Sun video with all the animals, and they're playing with puppies, and it was wonderful. And then, you know, boom, years and years later, people are like, well, wait a second, Pinkerton, we were wrong about that. And people love it. You know, it's like, I think I saw that it didn't go platinum until 2016. So talk about a ride. Yeah, that's a long ride.
Such a great album. And I think that, you know, the complaint that people make about Rivers Cuomo is exactly what I find so appealing. I mean, he's like pop music's Peter Pan. I mean, he's like suspended in the Blue Album era. That state of like, you know, post-adolescence. Yeah. He's the only like 50-year-old man that can get away with, you know, singing about going to the mall and picking up girls. Which is really creepy when you think about it.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
Hey, it depends on how much money you have. If you're like a plumber and you're broke, you're crazy and you're creepy. If you're Rivers Cuomo, you're eccentric, and he can get away with it.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you think of this, between that Blue album and Pinkerton, that's when, and especially then the 2001 album, the Green album, he went to Harvard.
Yeah.
And they were doing, I mean, it's like, what rock star do you know who's like, wait a second, I'm going to put everything on hold so I can go back to school?
He was obviously a big Rodney Dangerfield fan.
Yeah.
Yep. Wanted to go back to school.
And people say you're on your own planet. He's on his own comet. He's just out there. But then again, he could bring it around. And you're going, wow. I could be wrong. I'm just saying. In my head,
you're
that's
not wrong, Gregg.
All right. Well, hey, good. For this one time, I said the band's name correctly, and I'm not wrong according to the PhD.
It's French. It's Wheezy.
Oh, see, bam.
And what about that Happy Days video, though?
Oh, the best.
Yeah. I mean, didn't that get them going, too?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Came with the Windows 95 boot up disc.
Yep.
Right now, the kids are boot up disc.
What's a boot up disc?
That's the old cloud.
We know we're talking crazy here, kids, because we're archaeologists.
I got a floppy disk for you guys if you want. I can send one to you in the mail.
Yeah, that just sounded vulgar.
Well, Bueno's the birthday boy. What's your number 2?
Oh, is it my number 2? All right. So you think this is going to be a crossover, huh, Brett?
I do. I wholeheartedly do.
Okay, well, I'm going to... it's not. I bet you it's not. So one of the greatest new wave bands, a classic British pop group, distinguished by the clever songwriting of Chris Dilford and Glenn Tilbrook. The vast majority of their material is composed by lyrics of Chris and music by Glenn Tilbrook, who are the guitarist and the vocalist in the band, and the duo were hailed as the heirs to the Lennon and McCartney's throne. During the band's initial popularity in the late 70s, the group formed in Delford, London in 74, first broke up in 82, then reformed in 85, and again disbanded in 99. They can't make up their mind.
Take me, I'm yours, because dreams are made of this. Forever there'll be a heaven in your case.
13 records, 47 singles in the O3L era. Oh my gosh, it started in March of 78 with their first release titled Squeeze. Some incredible, awesome music off this first record. Bang Bang, Take Me On Yours, Excitedly, hard rock craftsmanship spoiled by trashy literature. I love First Thing Wrong. And as they continue their master craft of awesome music, their second release, Cool for Cats, which actually, I remember right, somebody at 91X named Garrett played that for me today for my birthday. Contains 4 UK hit singles, more than any other album the band has ever issued, and that album actually peaked at 45 on the chart, spending 11 weeks. Singles released, Goodbye Girl, Cool for Cats, and I know PhD Brett's favorite, Up the Junction,
Absolutely.
and Slap and Tickle. So their third record, released in February of 1980, Argy Bargy, and the pictures on our O3L website from the 80s tour of me and the band are priceless. 4 singles, Another Nail in My Heart, If I Didn't Love You, Pulling Muscles, and Farfisa Beat. And every single song on this album should have been released as a single. The album is just amazing. 4th album, East Side Story, released May 15th of 81. And the initial concept for the album, I don't know if many people know this, was proposed by manager Jake Rivera. Squeeze wanted to record a double album with one side produced by Elvis Costello, the next side by Dave Edmunds, the third side by Nick Lowe, and the fourth side by Paul McCartney. Although all producers were willing, the logistics difficulty of assembling the 4 producers ultimately made the plan impossible. In the end, the album was narrowed down to 1 single disc and largely produced by Costello. And also Dave Edmunds actually produced the opening track. 4 singles, Is That Love, Tempted with Paul Carrick, labeled with Love, and Messed Around. May 1982 was also a very sweet day as Squeeze released their 5th studio album, Sweets from a Stranger. 3 singles released, Black Coffee in Bed, When the Hangover Strikes, and I've Returned. And their next 4 albums are totally awesome, but I just need to fast forward to the 1993 release, Some Fantastic Place. That was their 10th release. I met the band in Mesa, Arizona, had the whole band to myself for 10 minutes. That was one hell of a special day I'll never forget. 5 singles released, Third Rail, Everything in the World, Some Fantastic Place, Loving You Tonight, It's Over. And that is it. And that's my number 2 top 5 one-word bands. Squeeze.
Drum roll, please. Is it a crossover?
Did I see her?
I'm shocked right now.
Yeah, I know. I can tell.
I am gobsmacked, as they say.
Well, tell us your number 2 then, Brett.
Well, my number 2 is not Squeeze because I was leaving Squeeze for Bueno's number 1. So now I think I'm going to cross over with your number 1. So here we go. All right. Well, we interrupt my list of all British bands to bring you my number 2 one-word band, Blondie. Woo. And if I may remind you all, to quote the famous ads, t-shirts and badges, Blondie is a group. And what a group they were and are to this day.
Darling, 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 I can't wait to see you. Your picture ain't enough. I can't wait to touch you in the flesh.
Blondie defines the very word eclectic. Dashes of rock, girl group pop, punk, disco, rap, reggae, calypso, electronic, dance, jazz, and just about anything else that strikes their fancy that runs through their music. For me, the band's legend is built upon their first 4 albums, 1976's self-titled debut, 1977's Plastic Letters, 1978's, of course, widely and deservedly acclaimed Parallel Lines, and 1979's Eat to the Beat. Each of them are various shades of perfection. Debbie Harry plays equal parts tough street girl that will rip her to shreds and vamped up sex kitten with a heart of glass.
And if you do, will anything happen? Will it come true?
Guitarist and songwriter Chris Stein remains Harry's longest-standing artistic partner, who is also her life partner throughout the 80s. In their best 70s lineup, in my opinion, Jimmy Destry and Gary Valentine provided solid instrumental backing and wrote some of their hookiest tunes. And their secret weapon, let's not forget, their drummer to this day, the magnificent Clem Burke, who in my opinion is one of the greatest drummers of all time, who's both capable of the flash of Keith Moon and the impeccable timing of Ringo Starr. Not an easy thing to do. After 1982's lackluster and much maligned The Hunter, the band called it quits until bursting back onto the scene with the No Exit album in 1999, including their very welcome comeback single Maria, which I'll tell you was so refreshing to hear on US radio.
It was great.
And also gave the band their 6th UK number 1 single. They've remained active since with the shifting lineup around Harry, Stein, and Burke. And if I may make one minor criticism of Blondie, it's their eclecticism that I mentioned earlier that's the very thing that's made most of their reunion albums not entirely successful. So back in 1980, Auto American kind of set this template for what a Blondie album should be. So here's the rock song, here's the reggae song, here's the rap song, etc. So you get the sense that on subsequent albums they feel compelled to be eclectic simply because that's what Blondie does. What makes their last album, I know outside of the O3L era, but I want to give a shout out and recommend their last album, 2017's Pollinator, which is so refreshing in that it doesn't try to be anything more than just a great, solid rock album. Although another little criticism, Debbie Harry's vocals are way overly processed on that album. But I digress. Blondie's still a great live band to see, and they have left us with so much great music. I'm so thankful that we have new Blondie music to this day, and they are my number 2 one-word band, Blondie.
Can't believe they've been around for 40 plus years. Amazing.
I almost made my list too.
45, 46 years, right? They've been around since like 74, 75, and Debbie Harry's been around since the 60s with Wind in the Willows.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. When she starts singing when she's like 5.
And if you want to see some of the most beautiful pictures of a human being, you should Google Mick Rock, who's a photographer of rock and roll from the 70s. He's still around, but he's like known for all of his 70s album covers. And Deborah Harry. And I agree with you, Blondie, right there on my list, but didn't make it.
Didn't make it.
I don't know why, but I just was like, I have to go with my gut.
Guess we'll wait till Bueno's number 1. Okay, Uncle Greg.
Well, my number 2 pick is the one-word band names. It's an American band out of the great state of Washington, of course, Nirvana, a band that would still sell a ton of albums if lost recordings were found today, and they still influence rock and roll. So I remember where I was when I first heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. I was on I-5 in San Diego. I was a squid in the Navy, and 91X was the only source of my happiness. And I just remember hearing that and going, what's that? And then everybody was the same way as I was. Back here in Phoenix, no one had heard of the band yet. Soon after, Nirvana was a cultural phenomenon. And for some Gen Xers, of course, Kurt Cobain's death was the first death they may have experienced in their life of someone they cared about. So Nirvana definitely tattooed on a lot of us Gen Xers. But after Nirvana came, the scene, nothing was ever the same. And it launched alternative music to the front of the record stores, and it launched alternative radio, and it launched that whole alternative music through the 90s. And still to this day, if it wasn't for Nirvana, there would be no alt, add the numbers in there. There would be no K-Rock probably anymore. There probably would be no 91X. You would hope down. I was wrong on that, but Nirvana definitely brought it all to the forefront, and it really made record labels think, okay, hey, this alternative music scene actually sells albums, and we can all thank Nirvana for that.
Drop me off at Grandpa Joe's. I kicked and screamed, so please no. Grandma, take me home. Grandma, take me home. Grandma, take me home.
So that's why they're my number 2 this week on my list.
Well, I'm 0 for 2.
Really?
I thought they would be your number 1.
You might be 0 for 3 coming up here, too.
Really?
Do you even have a thought of what my number 1 is?
Yeah,
Squeeze.
Blondie.
Oh, Blondie, that's right.
Squeeze is your number 2 and your number 1.
Yeah, bro.
They're so good.
That wouldn't
deserve
shock me.
mentioning twice.
That wouldn't shock me. But Brett, your number 1 is the one. Everyone knows who my number 1 is. This is not hard now.
We all know what Brett's number 1 is.
Well, I know what your number 1 is going to be now because
Right.
you mentioned a band that frequently gets a the in front of them. So I think your number 1 band is going to be another one where people add
Yes.
a the.
You've already said it. But I think that your number 1 is going to be Brett Weird or not?
Yeah.
Well, this is a curious thought.
I think I need to go to the convenience store and pick up some pixie sticks.
Well, okay.
And I'm gonna go pick up some Dexies pills.
Dexy pills. I don't know what those are.
I don't either.
Maybe they're pretty awesome. Don't forget, if you have a smart speaker, you can say, Alexa, you can say, Google, play the Only Three Lads podcast, and we'll be there for you. Again, go to our Facebook page. Make sure and like us, follow us, hit the notifications. That way you'll see as soon as the new episodes come out. We're on episode 25. Our episodes can now rent a car. That's where we're at, 25 this week.
It's the, what is it, golden, silver? Is it silver?
I haven't even
25th?
been there. Yeah, 20. I have no idea. That's not
it's our silver episode, I believe.
Is it silver? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to hit our number 1s on our top 5 list of one-word name bands after this.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We'll be back. I don't know what that was.
It's like you're coughing up a hairball.
Only Three Lads. Brett Vargo, Brit Pop Master, and the Chicks Dig 'em. What? That's not him? Brett Vargo, Brit Pop Master, and his wife says, ugh, he's okay.
Only Three Lads.
Read all about it. Listen to the world. Listen to the world.
O3L pays tribute to 2 legendary musicians who we recently lost, Emmett Rhodes and Peter Green. Although the glory days of both fell outside the O3L era, their influence has been widespread. Emmett Rhodes was a singer-songwriter behind late 60s LA pop band The Merry-Go-Round before going solo with a series of one-man band albums in the 70s. Rhodes was highly influential on power pop music as well as the Paisley Underground scene of the 80s. The Bangles notably covered his song Live on their debut album. And Peter Green, of course, was the founder of Fleetwood Mac and is regarded by many, myself included, as one of the greatest blues and rock guitarists ever. Among Green's many great compositions were Black Magic Woman, Oh Well, Man of the World, Albatross, and The Green Manalishi. They will both be missed, but their music lives on.
You need 4 inches of bod and a great birthday.
We are back here on the Only Three Lads podcast, where each week we take a look at the golden age of alternative music from 1974 to 1999. I am Uncle Greg. We have now the engineer of music, Brett Fargo.
The archaeologist.
And that too. And then, of course, we have Ambassador Bueno.
Yeah, you just got the old guy here hanging out, shooting threes.
Your birthday boy.
Yeah. Roger Maris' birthday.
Yeah. Jeff Gordon.
Well, it's his birthday too, right? You mentioned that last
August 4th. Yep.
Yeah.
August 4th. It's
1971.
my sister's birthday too.
Yep.
My sister's birthday is August 4th.
Yep.
A lot of greatness that day.
I guess so.
Roger Clemens, Barack Obama, actually, too.
I have Fats Domino, so I don't have the extinguished list that you do.
I don't think I have anity.
I'm sure you have somebody. I bet you have somebody.
Yeah,
nobody else was born that day.
You got Brett Fargo.
Do you need anything else?
That's it. That's all you need.
All right, we're counting down our top 5 list of one-word name bands, and we're at our number 1s. Bueno, what is yours?
Oh, yeah, you guys. German band. Formed in Dusseldorf in 1970. The innovators and pioneers of electronic music. Kraftwerk. They were among the most successful acts to popularize the genre. So, this group began its West Germany's German experience Kraftwerk scene in the early 70s before embracing electronic instrumentation, including synthesizers, drum machines. During the O3L era, they released 9 albums, 19 singles. Their debut record, was released in 1970 by Conrad Corny Plank. 39 minutes and 39 seconds of magic that I bet a lot of listeners have not ever heard before. And I listened to it during the week, and it just blew my mind. I mean, just incredible. Kraftwerk 2 was the next one, released in its entirety, performed by the founding Kraftwerk members, Rolf and Florin, in the late 70s and late 71, with the sessions produced by Conrad Corny again. And Ralph later said of the album's recording, nobody wanted to play with us, man, because we did all kinds of strange things. Feedbacks, overtones, sounds, rhythms. No drummer wanted to work with us because we had all these electronic gadgets. So it was pretty crazy. But flying over to the 3rd release and driving onto the Autobahn is the 4th studio album. This was their first album to fully embrace the repetitive electronic sound that they would become known for. It was also inspired by the German motorway system. The radio edit of that title track became a super surprise hit, reaching number 11 in the UK, number 12 in Canada, and the Netherlands. Brett?
Oh, isn't that weird?
Thank you. Number 25 on the US Billboard chart, top 100, and number 30 in the Australian chart. Autobahn is not a complete electronic album, as violin, flute, piano, and guitars are used along with synthesizers. Their 6th album, Trans-Europe Express, that was released in March of 77. It also saw the group refine their electronic style with more focus on occasional manipulated voices and different rhythms sequenced all together. So 7th album, Man Machine, the robots and the model on that record, 37 minutes and 10 seconds of pure Kraftwerk masterpieces.
She's a model and she's looking good.
The 8th studio album, Computer World, released May 10th, 1981, is just a fun record. Plus, I saw the tour at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, and it was just an amazing show. And I remember it sure smelled a lot like Cheech and Chong was there doing a lot of stuff. And all I remember seeing was joints being passed around down the rows and everything. Pretty fun that night. And 4 singles, Pocket Calculator, Computer Love, Computer Welt, and Numbers. My favorite, actually, is More Fun to Compute.
It's more fun to compute. It's more fun to compute. It's more fun to compute.
And their 9th studio album, another masterpiece, Electric Cafe, released November 10th, 1986. This album is somewhat infamous for taking almost a half a decade to produce, and work is said to have begun as early as 1982 on this record. But the project was delayed for several reasons. Rolf actually suffered a cycling accident in May or June of '82, and there was concerns within the band that the production quality of the album was not sufficient enough and no cutting-edge technology. And more generally, Rolf had more become focused on cycling. I adore all 6 tracks from this record. My favorite is actually the telephone call, and that is my number 1 top 5 one-word bands. And I know it blew both you guys away. Yeah.
Kraftwerk.
Not expecting that one.
Nobody was.
I actually was expecting it. I jotted it down for you, but not number 1.
Mm-hmm.
That was the shock of all shocks.
Yeah.
You're really surprising as a 61-year-old now.
I'm trying my best.
You've changed, Bueno.
Yeah. Can't wait to show some other things that I can do on the court one of these days soon.
Well, I know you will.
Oh, yeah.
We have the utmost faith in you. Well, you guys already know what my number 1 is, and over the past 6 months of doing the show, how could anyone expect anything else at this point? Yes, of course, it is Nickelback.
Oh my God! I just think I have to go change. I have to change my underwear now. Stop. Oh my God! I was like,
I'm having a heart attack. Come get me!
Oh gosh!
Hey, why don't we take a song and we'll just rewrite the words, but the structure's going to be exactly the same. Hey, we're Nickelback.
We're Nickelback. We're a bunch of archaeologists from the future.
Dare.
There's no other way.
Pure crap. Oh, we're sorry, Nickelback.
Yeah.
You're very Canadian.
And, the band shouldn't get as much hate as it does, but I'm glad.
They should. They absolutely should. Actually, if possible, if it's possible to hate somebody more, but yet they are my number 1 band.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a wrap.
All right, we'll see you on episode 26.
See you episode 26. Let's break down my number 1, my real number 1, guys. After always playing catch up with my heroes in the past and listening to their most important works in retrospect, my number 1 band, Blur.
Already wrote it down.
I know you did.
I had it.
Was the first major band where my obsession happened in real time, following the UK weeklies, buying overly expensive import CD singles, anxiously awaiting what surprises would come next. They soundtracked my youth, my freedom. They helped me mourn the failure of what I mistook for love, and were with me when I found love again. Heck, they were the whole reason I found love again. They provided some of my fondest concert and club memories. They were the ultimate climax of a whole lifetime of Anglophilia, telling tales and painting pictures of an England that I desperately wanted to know, and by the time I finally got to the UK in 1998, it felt totally familiar, comfortable, and like I belonged. In Damon Albarn, Blur possessed one of the most literate, clever, and tuneful songwriters in history. In Graham Coxon, the restlessly inventive, unconventional guitar hero, he seemed shy and nerdy enough to be the bloke next door rather than a rock star on a pedestal. On the other hand, in bassist Alex James, with his floppy fringe and cigarette dangling, the dude just exuded rock star cool. And Dave Rowntree, the ever-lovable drummer, who you could just as easily envision sharing a pint round the pub as you could envision him teaching a lecture at the nearest uni. Unlike many of their Britpop peers who were pigeonholed into being only one thing, and neither had the chops, tunes, nor smarts to grow up, Blur was constantly evolving. From the baggy and shoegaze-influenced textures of 1991's debut Leisure, to the challenging, ambitious, brilliant mid-90s triumvirate of Modern Life is Rubbish, Park Life, and The Great Escape,
What's with you so behind the collar? Keeps a clean mental state. Don't usually bother in cold weather.
to the scrappy American indie of their 1997 self-titled, to the dense progressive art pop of 1999's 13, their albums stand as enduring, timeless classics.
So take me home, don't leave me alone. I'm not that good, but I'm not that bad. I'm psycho killer, hooligan gorilla. I dream to ride, oh you should try it. I read the road, you go outside.
Plus, they left a whole clutch of brilliant, fun B-sides to discover. In the 21st century, Blur is only an occasional going concern for sporadic live shows and 2 records this century, including 2015's tremendous album, The Magic Whip. But Damon Albarn, of course, in particular, has continued his role as a modern Renaissance man, solo, with Gorillaz, or with The Good, the Bad, and the Queen. He's dabbled in African music, Chinese opera, Latin sounds, hip-hop, and just about any other style that feels right at that time. So whether we're talking about artistic boundaries or just a quick progression of time, Blur is a wholly appropriate word to describe my number one-word band.
I was just playing them yesterday for my 15-year-old son, saying, "What do you think of this song?" And I was playing "There's No Other Way."
That's my favorite.
Like that. Oh God, he was just like, "Yeah, no, I
It
like
sucks,
that."
Dad. Oh, good.
No,
I'm glad
he liked it. No, he liked it. Blur is a great band, and then that song too that a lot of people know here in the U.S. because it was kind of they were making fun of grunge. It wasn't a grunge song, but it became one of their biggest hits in the U.S. A song too, and woohoo! And still, it's just an awesome song. But they went from "There's No Other Way" to "Woohoo!"
Yeah,
and
in just a few short years.
And then the Gorillaz. I mean, come on, it all came out of.
I know.
A lot of great music. A lot of great music. All right.
I heard that song he worked with the Gorillaz on like couple weeks ago. It was really awesome.
Yeah, they got some new stuff out.
Yeah.
Very excited. Well, for my number one, it's going to be no shock. So, of course, it's the band from Boston, Pixies. If you've listened to any of the past 24 episodes of the Only Three Lads podcast, you know my love affair with the band. And to me, Pixies is one of those bands that brings any music lover satisfaction after finding a song that they forgot about for a long time, and then you find it again, but then you find another and another. It's kind of like a box of trinkets that you stash in a storage unit that brings you back to memories and emotions from the place you first found them. And you would think this band would have led me to a life of crime, because I've talked about it in the past, that I found the Pixies because I was 19, drunk at a party, and there was a cassette of Doolittle on a bathroom counter. I stuck it in my back pocket, and they say crime doesn't pay my ass. That's how I found the Pixies. And I didn't turn to a life of crime. I never was really a thief or anything, but I took that. I have to say that I did. But I mean, come on, the Pixies, they're punk rock, surf rock, with those dynamics of loud and quiet shifts in their structure that's influenced songwriting to this day. We're talking Nirvana, Radiohead, Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer. Two of the bands were on my list this week. And, without the Pixies, where would we be? I never want to find out. That's why they're number uno on my list of one-word name bands. Preach the Pixies.
Crime pays, kids. That's a word brought to you by O3L.
Yes.
Until you get thrown in jail, we will not bail you out. By the way,
the producers of the Only Three Lads podcast is not.
We do not endorse crime in any way.
We do not endorse crime or thievery in any way.
We just endorse happiness, love, and
music.
friendship.
Unless it's a Pixies tape, in which case, fair game.
Yeah.
Hey, you leave it out, I would try not to take it any longer. But I was drunk, not an excuse. But I am kind of looking back at this, 31 years later. I am very happy that I did, because, again, Doolittle was one of the great albums of all time. Great songs, and what a great place to start.
And probably whoever you stole that tape from, Pixies are just a distant memory for them now.
I would hope so.
Probably a straight-laced banker that, listens to Enya.
No, it probably was. It probably was, really, because it was on the other side of town. Like, I grew up on the lower middle class, blue collar, a lot of, construction workers in my neighborhood. This was in, every house is on, a quarter acre, where it was because like I said, I hung out with the rock and rollers, the greasers. And then I hung out with the preps who were all the college kids, or their brothers and sisters went to, parochial school. They all went to Xavier. They all went to Brophy.
So they're all snotty, is what you're saying.
Not snotty, but they had the best pot. back in the 80s. You always went to the Catholic high schools to find the best pot because those families had money. So you would always, that's where you would find it. Just a little FYI from Phoenix area in the 80s.
You are a bad boy.
I don't think.
I mean, back in the 80s, you can come to Phoenix and get Cheech and Chonged?
You could. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Well, it was, that's the only thing to do. We've talked about this before. What's there to do in Phoenix now? Nothing. So what was there to do in Phoenix then? Nothing. Even less than nothing. It was less than zero back then. So
Cheech and Chonged and double palmered.
Going down the Salt River.
You can't even do that now. It's blocked. No. Tubing. Tubing. Nope. You might grab onto someone's tube and give them the COVID. Yeah. We better stop you.
It's always a problem when you're grabbing onto somebody's tube.
Yep.
Don't you know it?
Mm-hmm. All
Preach,
too well.
Brett. All right. Let's go down our list. Bueno, you're first.
All right. So my number 5, I don't know what it is. My number 4, I forgot. Number 3, I don't even remember my name. Number 2, what am I doing? And my number 1, I love life.
Yes.
All
so
right.
It actually went XTC, Devo, Madness, Squeeze, and Kraftwerk.
Thank you, sir.
You're
Glad
welcome.
somebody's paying attention.
Whew. Brett, what's your
right.
list?
My number 5, Wire. Number 4, Squire. Number 3, Liar. No, number 3,
Wire,
Madness.
Squire, Liar.
Number 2, Blondie. Number 1, Blur, not Nickelback.
Wow, this has gone downhill. My number 5, Muse. Number 4, Ramones. Number 3, Weezer. Number 2, Nirvana. And my number 1, one-word name bands, Pixies.
Yeah.
Did we ever make it uphill to go downhill?
I don't think so.
No, just look at the roller coaster picture that I posted yesterday, straight down.
But you're on your way up.
I'm on my way
61's going to be good for you.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
Stick around, kid.
Oh, yeah. I'll find out tomorrow if I have a job. I can't wait. Woohoo! I can't wait for one of those doors to open and shut because I have stayed completely positive. All the negativity that's been thrown at me, I'm just throwing that negativity away and just keeping love in my heart and staying focused.
Good job.
Yep.
Good job.
Fantastic.
All right. Let's hit this Only 3 Lads randomizer, see what we're doing next week.
Okay.
No way.
What?
Way.
What? No way.
No.
Way.
We can't have that.
Have
No.
you seen the trailer for the third Bill and Ted?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what I think about it yet.
It'll be great.
I'm sure it will because I love the first 2, but Keanu Reeves looks plastic.
Yeah, he does.
It's very disconcerting.
Mm-hmm.
It might be part of the movie.
Maybe it is.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe he's a robot whore. All right.
2 episodes back.
So episode 26, this is a fun one for a record nerd like me.
Oh, no.
The top 5 non-album singles.
Okay.
Love will tear us apart again.
In any era?
Any era, 1974 to 1999, singles that did not make it onto a proper album. Compilations are okay. Like, if they made a best of later on, but they did not make it on a real album.
Is there anything else you guys want to say?
Well, I just want to say I'm glad that we were able to dig up some treasures from our land of archaeology and also a very sincere happy birthday, Bueno. We love you.
Oh, thanks.
We
guys.
have a blast doing this with you every week and look forward to many more to come in a great year for you.
Definitely. Thanks, guys. I love you guys, and I love all the listeners. And I mean, just today on that radio station in San Diego, 91X, the love everybody was showing me, and it was pretty amazing. So everybody just hang in there, love each other, be cool, and be bueno.
The theme music is Frequency, written and performed by yours truly, Brett Vargo. Any other music in this episode is presented solely for purposes of review, examination, and news reporting. If you like what you hear, go to your record store and pick up the LP, CD, cassette, or 8-track, or stream it if you're one of those newfangled fancy pants. If we're lucky enough to still have these artists with us, go out and see some live music. For the latest updates, join the O3L community at facebook.com/only3lads. We want to hear from you. And while you're at it, click on the Shop Now link for the coolest threads. Until next time, thanks for listening.